I moved into my great-grandparents' house in Rotherhithe when I was 17 after my nan moved into her home. Even though I lived local prior to this and was always here visiting family, it felt like I entered a fake place, like someone hid a country town in London. My childhood memories of the woods, the farm, and all the natural places around here were all quite faded, so it felt very special to relive the memories. I never imagined I'd live in this house. It's always been someone else's home. I especially didn't imagine that I'd get a chance to live alone at such a young age. Growing up, I was between homes a lot and spent a lot of time here with my grandparents while my mum went to work, so it always kind of felt like a home to me.
Hello. Stop being shy. Don't you dare go shy.
Till my mum got into a car accident and stopped working. My mum and I became homeless when I was 2, so the first memories I have are in hotels and families' houses, constantly having to move every couple of weeks. Eventually we got placed in a hostel with a shared bathroom, one bed, a kitchen, and neighbours who constantly stole our stuff. It wasn't exactly luxurious, but me and my mum made it feel like home. Unable to work, my mum was offered a lot of rough placements around southeast London. My mum, in an attempt to get us out of there, threw herself down the stairs that still had nails sticking out of it. But when they realised that they could get sued, we finally got placed in a house. We moved in a little before my 5th birthday, and we finally had our own place without all the restrictions and constant moving. I finally had my own room and was even allowed to get my first pet. Within a year of being there, I had already lost having my own room and had a little brother to share with instead, and new stepsisters to share with on the weekend. Bailey has autism and couldn't speak until he turned 6, so I've always felt very protective of him, and we've been very close. I do worry about how me moving out has affected Bailey, as he isn't good at handling change. I was so worried when he started secondary school and I wasn't there for him, but luckily he turned out to be the biggest kid in his class. Being such an anxious person, I always have to worry about not letting my fears rub off on my brother, like being anxious on public transport or going to the shops alone. Moving in on my own was surprisingly easy to adapt to at first. I knew my route to college, I found times to maintain the house, keep up with my work, and I even took one of my cats for a month to keep me company. I finally felt independent and not held back by my anxiety. After a while, I found that living alone, I isolated myself, not wanting to leave home comforts, but was embarrassed about the state of my house with all the old carpets, ripped wallpaper, and very ancient feel about it. I was desperate to redecorate so I could invite friends round and feel somewhat normal. I remember starting to resent the decorations, as no matter how much I cleaned, I couldn't fix the stained carpets and ripped curtains. It was around that time I found out my nan had passed away. The funeral procession started from the house. I wanted it to feel as much like her space as it did when she lived there, with all her tea sets and party dishes out for everyone. It felt like the family home I remembered, and I became very in love with the cozy feel that came with living in an old lady's house. One of my nan's favourite things was her garden. Even when she died at 96, she kept up with her garden, so it felt only right to maintain and keep it a happy space I remember. I finally got the chance to redecorate and get new furniture for my birthday, but ended up keeping all the furniture and the cozy old lady vibe I grew to love. I've always had a thing for antiques, so the collection is only growing. Since living alone for a while now, I've found myself falling out of my routine and struggling to keep up with uni, as well as keeping the house clean and orderly. The woods have lost their charm, and I no longer feel I live in a fairy tale place, and feel like my anxiety makes the slightest social task drain me. Feeling so isolated and stuck at home, I felt as though I was forcing the cats into the same routine. I started to take Tiny out for walks, as his special needs prevents him from roaming like Smokey. At first I was quite embarrassed and felt silly walking around with my cat, but seeing how happy it made him, how he waits in his bag ready for his walk, the interactions he has with people on the street, I think it's totally worth looking like a crazy lady for him. My new cat Bugsy recently started to join us for walks and definitely embarrasses me more than Tiny.
Hello, darling. Won't she be jumping up and down.